Welcome to the HiRSE Summer of AI for RSE. If you want to learn more on how AI is changing the way we write and work with research software, this collection of episodes is for you.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the HiRSE Summer of AI series. I'm Toby. I'm Director of Curriculum at the Carpentries, a non-profit organization supporting a global community of practitioners teaching essential software and data skills to researchers. With thanks to Claire Wyatt and the HiRSE team for the invitation, I'm going to tell you about some of the training that's available to research software engineers who want or need to learn about how to use generative AI in their work. As you'll no doubt be aware, there are a huge number of training courses available teaching AI-assisted methods for coding and software engineering. Most of these, though, are not specific to research software engineering. Do we need to make a distinction between training for RSEs specifically and software engineers more generally? One reason we might want to think about that is the differences in how capable AI coding tools are at research-related software tasks in comparison to standard software engineering. Two recent preprints have presented benchmark sets of research-specific software tasks, with results indicating that current agents struggle to complete them. While the results suggest that the quality of the resources and the guidance that's provided to agents is generally important, two of the common failure modes identified were associated with domain knowledge and abstraction based on scientific understanding. The model's relative inability to complete these tasks might be down to lack of coverage for research computing tasks in the model's training data, and in the subsequent reinforcement learning that takes place after the initial training. It might be representative of the model's lack of a world model, so to speak, that could make them capable of connecting the tasks that they're currently working on with a much wider base of general knowledge about the domain, the laws of physics, things that are possible in the world, and so on. I suspect it's a combination of both of these factors. Regardless, it backs up the theory that domain expertise is essential for the successful application of AI tools to research software engineering, which is a point that Stefan Druskat made very well in the previous episode in this series. So I highly recommend you go back and watch that video if you haven't done so already. Anthropic's course on AI fluency, which isn't specific to research software engineering or even to coding, describes the four core competencies of AI fluency as delegation, description, discernment, and diligence. In my view, at least, the most interesting of these in the context of research and the competencies I'm most interested in helping people to develop are discernment and diligence. I think these get to the crux of what researchers and RSEs should be practicing if they're going to be relying on AI tools to generate their code for them. As more code is generated, as opposed to being written, we must make sure that we remain capable of noticing when that code is going to produce incorrect results or will fail to conform to what is known about the specific research domain that we're working in. That's the discernment part. But we must also be paying enough attention to notice in the first place, and that's the diligence bit. With the sheer volume of code that an agent can produce in a single session, it can feel overwhelming to practice proper quality control. But as this post from February eloquently put it, the amount of rigor shouldn't decrease in our process because of AI assistance, but it might need to move out from the part where the code is initially being drafted and into other parts of the process. So one of the big questions in my mind is, what can we teach researchers and junior RSEs to do to ensure that their research remains rigorous? Right now, I think that means developing a judgment of the kinds of tasks where AI is highly likely to get things right, the tasks where we might need to be a lot more careful. It means tight cycles of development, avoiding the enormous batches of changes that an agent can produce that would then need to be reviewed all at once. And it means code review has become more important than ever. And also for relatively novice coders who haven't typically needed to do that kind of review before. They might not need to worry so much about the exact syntax now, but the ability to trace the flow and the logic of a program, to build up a mental model of how the individual components of a piece of software work together, these have become more important than ever. Linked to that is the need for testing code and validation of the results that are being produced by it. Even researchers with no direct coding experience need to be thinking about how they can verify the accuracy of the results that their workflows are producing. And their ability to do this validation and the code review that they need to do is going to be enhanced by their domain expertise. The mental model they have for their domain is going to help them articulate what they want to do, predict what the code and the results they're going to receive should look like, and figure out what might be going wrong if the actual results don't match those expectations. And we need to make sure that our analyses are still reproducible, that the community can be confident that published results are genuine research insights and not the result of mistakes in the generated code. These are all skills that we've been teaching to RSEs for a long time, but the relative importance of these skills and others has changed. It's also worth noting that most of them are important skills for software engineering in general. RSEs, though, might also need to consider two other things that may be discussed less frequently in general software engineering training. Data security is certainly not the sole concern of RSEs, but given that they're often working with sensitive data, they do need to be able to think about whether and when it's okay or not to allow your data to be ingested by an AI model. And the other factor is plagiarism. We should be considering whether the code produced by a model or the article written to report the results produced by that code violates somebody else's copyright or constitutes academic misconduct. I'm honestly not sure at this point whether the community is going to uphold existing standards of academic integrity or redefine those standards to account for the widespread use of these tools. They're tools, remember, that may reproduce large amounts of somebody else's work without giving credit. But until the question of whether or not we're going to continue to enforce those standards gets answered, I recommend that RSEs keep paying close attention to the outputs that are being produced on their behalf. So what training on generative AI exists for RSEs specifically? One resource I can recommend is Code Refinery's responsible use of generative AI in assisted coding. The material frames three modes of interaction: chat-based coding, IDE integrations, and agentic development, all with a particular focus on the use of software in research. The course discusses these three different modes of interaction as a series of trade-offs between control and risk, which I really like. It also follows that with a discussion of security considerations, which includes some coverage of what I think is now an essential topic, which is about sandboxing of agents. The curriculum provides a really good overview. I think it's mostly written for use as an instructional aid, so some sections are quite terse. They're not going to be accessible necessarily to somebody who wants a lot of explanatory context to go with the examples that are shown. But if you can already kind of read between those lines, then I think it's a really nice tour of what's important to think about at the moment. I recommend that you look out for upcoming Code Refinery workshops. Those are live streamed and will undoubtedly include this lesson in them. They've got one coming up in late September 2026, that is. So if you're interested, I recommend heading over to coderefinery.org to register for that. Southampton Research Software Group's lessons on developing research software with AI tools and advanced research software development using AI are another great choice. These lessons, well, the first is primarily focused on IDE integration between VS Code and Microsoft Copilot, with some discussion later on of working in agent mode inside VS Code. And the second lesson, advanced research software development using AI, looks at agentic development in more detail. Both of the lessons, of course, are pitched at RSEs, and they've been designed to be taught in half-day workshops. They're more verbose than that code refinery material that I talked about before, which I think could make them a really good starting point for somebody who wants to work through content on their own. But I know that the Southampton group are also running workshops from time to time, so it might be worth checking out whether there's one of those coming up sometime soon as well. And the authors of those lessons have also developed a couple of others aimed at other target audiences who are less directly involved with the development of software, but still need to be thinking about AI in the context of research and research software. In the AI carpentry project, which I've been coordinating over recent months, we're trying to build similar workshops that will help researchers make informed choices about whether, when, and how they use AI when writing code for their research. Like those Southampton Research Software Group lessons, and also collaborating with the authors of those lessons, these workshops are going to briefly explore how the technology works, what its implications are for research integrity, for people's skill sets, and so on, before digging into some kind of practical skills and approaches that researchers and RSEs can adopt to mitigate risks to themselves and their research, and take advantage of the benefits that these technologies might offer to their research. So in particular, we're going to tackle risks like de-skilling, and like the need for that quality control, that validation and evaluation that I mentioned on a previous slide. One of the workshops that we're developing is aimed at novice programmers rather than RSEs, so people who form more of the kind of traditional target audience for a carpentries workshop. But the other is being developed for a target audience of competent programmers who want to begin adopting AI methods for that work. These are both going to be for a 2-day long workshop taught in the traditional sort of carpentry style, live demonstration with learners following along with what the instructor's doing. The biggest challenge for all of these training programs might be the speed of technological change. In the time that we've been developing AI carpentry, the conversation around AI-assisted coding has moved from asking a chatbot to write a script, through model context protocol to help the AI tool stay on the right track, then command line agents like Claude Code, and now AI-first IDE harnesses, multiple agents, and so on. At the same time, the cost of these tools has been changing quickly and quite unpredictably. The long predicted bursting of the AI investment bubble might come next week, might come next year, or it might never come. But if it does, it would undoubtedly have a profound impact on what we can teach, how we teach it, what tools our learners will have access to, and so on. Keeping track of this shifting landscape feels like a part-time job in itself, and it can feel impossible to make progress on training material that's aimed at such a fast-moving target. But we're doing our best. That constant change is one factor that I think is contributing to something like a crisis of confidence that the research software engineering education community is currently experiencing. In many conversations that I've had with educators over the last couple of years, I've been listening to them describe how they're struggling to figure out how generative AI has changed the skills that is most important for their target audience to learn, and what the best way is to teach those skills, and how they can assess that learning afterwards. Most practitioners seem to agree that a mental model of programming and software engineering is essential to the successful deployment of AI tools. That was another point illustrated very well by Stefan in the previous video. But one of the key questions is how much time needs to be spent writing code by hand in order to build up that mental model, the expertise that is needed to then use AI coding tools reliably, responsibly, effectively. And what about the skills that are required to maintain code over the long term? There's a growing body of evidence suggesting that it's very difficult to build your own skill set and conceptual understanding when most of the practical work's being done by AI. Stefan summarized the difference between how expert and junior software engineers are able to make use of AI to produce good and maintainable software. But if Gen AI removes crucial opportunities for people to develop their own skills and expertise, how do we provide a pathway for those without any software engineering experience to become junior developers, and those junior developers to become senior developers? If you started watching this video in the hope that I was going to answer that question, I'm afraid that I have to disappoint you. But these and other questions are being discussed at our regular Gen AI and teaching community discussions. They're bringing together educators from across domains to share experiences and strategies that have been working for them. Join us at those calls for invited presentations and open discussion about the challenges and opportunities that generative AI presents to education. And in the absence of hard data from research into what works and what doesn't, I hope that this community of practice will provide us with vital insights to help us bootstrap new ways of providing our learners with what they need. For those RSEs watching this who are carpentries instructors, I also recommend that you check out our Generative AI and Workshop series, launched recently to complement our long-running instructor training program. This is a series where we've been bringing together instructors for some really valuable discussions about the impact of chatbot use by learners in workshops, and some strategies that we can adopt to engage in discussions on the topic during those workshops. We've been developing some great ideas together on how we can improve our workshops, and we're going to start implementing those soon. We want to make sure that we can continue to engage with our target audience as the landscape around us keeps shifting unpredictably. If you're involved with RSE skills training and you've been finding strategies that work well for you, please come along to one of those community sessions and share your experience, or reach out to me directly. I'd love to hear from you. The next couple of years promise to be interesting. I'm confident, though, that the inventiveness of the RSE community will continue to be a tremendous asset as we navigate this change. Thank you for listening, and good luck out there.
Thank you for watching this episode. Please check out the slides on Zenodo linked below, and see you next time.